meeting to order.
So,
Thank you all for coming. 6:01. All right, so first order of business is to approve minutes from 6/21/21.
Motion to approve the minutes from June 21st.
I'm second that.
Any,
I make a motion to approve the minutes from 6/21.
thank you, Darlene.
Thanks, Darlene.
Anybody have any questions, changes, discussion? Nope. All those in favor? Darlene, are you in favor? She's raising her
Yes.
hand. Okay. Thank you. All right, citizen comments? Darlene, can you see the audience? We have 2 people.
No, I can
When's the last
see
time
the
you had a board meeting
trees.
without citizen comments? Go ahead.
I don't think you're like, just gonna take a moment
Gonna
and absorb
back in
this.
his chair.
Take a moment and absorb this.
Unbutton.
Close it now before something happens. Oh, boy.
All right, well, seeing none and hearing none, we'll move on to number 4, presentation of school programs, FYI items.
Do you have anything?
Nope.
Nothing?
Well, I can tell you, we had successful school to career camps once again at the high school, but for any student who was, middle school age, 12 to 14, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Some exciting pieces. I know the STEM aviation, they get a chance to go up in helicopters. They actually, in the spring, through that program at the high school, they actually went in gliders over in Franconia Notch. So that program is really started to take off. Talked to Virginia. They wrote a grant for an electric car back in the spring that just arrived last week. So the plan is, it's a $50,000 grant, and the car comes to the school, the one of 4 schools in the nation to get one of these. And with the automotive, machine tool, engineering kids, they're actually going to take it apart and put it back together, which is pretty exciting stuff. So
Do you know what the vehicle is? Like,
it's a special kit that they put. So it's, my understanding is it has 2 wheels in the front, 1 in the back, fits 2 people. We'll get some pictures and show them off.
really
But they had to, a couple of folks from Colorado came in and working with the teachers, and so that's exciting, and so some good stuff. We navigated through, the summer programming. School athletics at the high school started today, and in the middle school we'll be getting going as well toward the end of the week. Middle school is really volunteer, people are still on vacation, and but getting geared up, that's the biggest thing. Hiring is an issue. We'll talk a little bit about that. But it's an issue everywhere. It really is.
Nationally.
Yeah.
in every industry.
Yeah, this
Pretty much like medical,
Yeah.
they have education,
Yeah.
everything.
I know.
Yeah, it's remarkable.
So there you go.
All right, well, thank you.
Yeah.
That was lovely. All right. Old business, we have the tuition contract. I haven't seen anything from Jack.
I have not. I will send him another email. I know that I've emailed him several times, but I have not heard back from him.
I'm just getting a little concerned.
Same with me. Same with me.
I really
Yeah.
want to give some time to the community
Yeah.
for education
Yeah.
review. Yeah.
And kind of in regards to that, not the timing from Jack, but I mean as far as regardless of what the SAU as a whole does, we need to have our own
Right.
either subcommittee or kind of just plan in place to kind of guide ourselves through the process and educate Jackson voters, so when it comes up time for a vote, what we're recommending, we have the strongest case to make anyway. So we've got a little bit of time still, but sometime I think probably before the end of this year, we should be thinking about how do we want to set up a committee and what do we want them to be doing. So maybe between now and the next meeting, I'll probably try to drop some ideas down on paper. Say this is what I think a subcommittee from us should be doing as far as the tuition contract for Jackson
And
is
that's
concerned.
kind of what our subcommittee is tasked with as well. When I've spoke to them and included them in this committee, that their role was to actually help us communicate to the community at large what's going on, what our options are, what our history is, where we're going. So that's what these people are. So Jessica, Darlene is on it, and Sasha are on that committee, and they've already committed.
So we have a committee. From
Yeah,
Jackson.
we have a
Okay, so-
committee, I got put
yeah.
together. So they've been on it since last year, and they are aware that they're gonna be tasked with all of that. But getting your insight would be really a good
Well, so
starting
to me,
point for
it's the
them.
board. Like, the board
Yep.
has directed, like, here's what we want you working on, then
Yep.
it gives them, a foundation to
Little
work from
meat,
anyway.
yeah.
And Kevin, has Bartlett put together any committee yet? Or are they thinking? Because I mean,
Now, I think every town has members on this planning committee, but they haven't done anything specific to moving anything forward. The other thing that may benefit you folks is you are members of the New Hampshire School Board Association. And it's not just the tuition contracts, but there are some other pieces that the education freedom accounts and those things that, if you would like, I could probably contact Barrett Christina, who is at the School Board Association, just to have maybe a Jackson Bartlett collective, even a community piece, have him come up before a board meeting at 5 o'clock and just maybe lay out some of the big changes for educational funding and what that may look like if you're interested.
that'd probably be
Yeah,
good,
would
yeah.
be.
Particularly if we join that up with Bartlett,
Yeah.
it'd probably be
It'd be good
more
for
useful for
their
them
time,
too. So
Yeah. Yeah, but if you could jot down, that would be really helpful, I think, for everybody.
that way, once their committee starts to work, then they know what they're working on and
Right.
can come back to us and say, here's what we've been working on, because if that doesn't line up or it does line
Right.
up, and just to
And he
keep
came
it.
up before when we were doing the study that was done. He's good.
See, I was
Hey,
just-
Micah.
I was just stalling for Mike.
Yeah.
Thank you, I appreciate that. You did a great job. I owe you $5. Micah, we're just moving on to instructional issues at this point, so thanks for
Perfect.
joining us.
Yeah, thanks for the patience with the main traffic.
There we go. All right, instructional issues?
Nothing from me.
No?
All right, consider personnel actions. We have accept resignation of Jenny Meyer.
Make a motion to accept with regret the resignation of Jenny Myers.
I can second with regret.
All those in favor? Raise your hand, Darlene. Thank you. All right. Business affairs. Budget status report? Anything?
Budget's looking good so far.
Right? It looks great right now. This is awesome right now. All right, we'll move on from that and consider approval of revised food service agreement with Bartlett. So if you haven't had a chance to read it, we're really just going up a quarter, right? Yeah, so that's the only change, so.
Make a motion to approve the revised food service agreement with Bartlett.
Second.
All those in favor? There we go. Darlene's hand's up. I don't know if you can see her. All right, so SAU 9, a return to school plan recommendation.
So, I think everyone has these, but I put copies out there. So, you have the plan. I think, Darlene, you got a copy of that emailed out? You never got that?
No,
Okay.
No, I think we,
no, in fact, I was looking for,
Oh, if you go on
after all the
the,
publicity in the paper
Yeah,
last week,
yeah.
the paper got very quiet.
yeah, the SAU 9 website has it right on there as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
no problem, I'll look it up, but,
So this is, last year we had a plan, and we were just planning to get the kids back, and the plan was very static at the very beginning. And this year is a little bit different, having gone through the entire year, making changes and adjustments along the way, and having new information. So we put together the plan Wednesday afternoon. State of New Hampshire Department of Public Health Services also put together a little bit of a toolkit. So we've really used DHHS and CDC as kind of those guiding in American Association of Pediatrics as well. So we use those for developing the plan. And this plan is, again, with the overarching goal of keeping kids in school safely and keeping them there for the whole year. So this handout right here, and Darlene, you can take a quick look, but really it talks about the variables that are there and then the mitigation strategies. And one of the things that we know is if we can use all of these mitigation strategies, we're better off than if we remove one from the equation. We also take a look at all the indicators. There's not one single indicator that we say is going to move us from red to yellow to green. And what are those indicators? They're outlined on the plan here, page 6. And one of the things that we do take a look at on a daily basis, if not more frequently, is the New Hampshire Gov website, and we take a look at where the community spread is. And this plan is, like I said, it allows us to take a look at all the different factors, what's happening within the school, what's happening in the local community, as well as our ability to look at the facilities and say, okay, if we're indoors, then some of these pieces we have to rely a little bit more upon. If we're outdoors, it's a little bit different. What's the vaccination rate? Obviously, under 12 years old, we can't vaccinate our students, so that weighs differently in different places. So, you know, the mitigation strategies, I know there's been a tremendous focus on masking and whether we should or should not, but that is really just one piece of this whole thing. And there's no, some districts have put in, you know, hard markers and said, when you go to the state website, and if you're in red and you're in substantial spread, then you mask, and if not, then you don't mask, or vice versa. And, you know, that's an option you folks could take a look at. I like to think that all of these factors weigh into making good decisions depending upon what's happening here. So when people ask me, where are we at? Well, where we are today on August 16th is way different than where we were in July 1st, you know, and you take a look at the numbers and you go, okay, Carroll County, 20 cases per 100,000 people. That's green, that's minimal. And then it jumped to 40, all within the past 2 weeks. And now we're up to 140, so it's, you know, gone up quite a bit. That's Carroll County. Hard to tell, pulling all that information. You know, Jackson has, if you would take a look at it, the vaccination rate's really high compared to other places. You do have some facility constraints depending upon what classes and what sizes, but you have great outdoors here. So there are other factors that are with that. You have great, you know, John does a great job keeping the building clean and putting all those pieces in. So, you know, I say we're in yellow right now. And what does that mean? That means that, you know, there is some risk out there. We're trying to mitigate those things. And the people were asking, what's your recommendation? Well, CDC, New Hampshire Department of Public Health, and the American Association of Pediatrics are saying when you're indoors, you know, you should be masking. And that's my recommendation. It's not always a popular recommendation, as you can hear, but I do work with the local doctors as well. If the conditions change, we can make changes, but we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we keep that physical distance, that regardless of what it is. That's a mitigation strategy that we do have. We're going to continue to screen our students, right? We're even talking about looking into pool testing at the high school for whether it's athletes or not. We aren't there yet. We're going to seminars. But the pandemic is still going, and we're going to have to deal with it for the near future, if not longer. And I know people are tired. They are tired. We're all a little bit tired from this thing, right? We're tired of carrying these things around. But so my recommendation is this plan. If you have specific questions about it, I'd be happy to answer those. I know Gail has a little bit of an interpretation of what it would look like at Jackson Grammar School. She handed out to you folks. And then ultimately the board can amend it, can provide further guidance for Jackson in your community. I know that we talked to Gretel Shaw, and transportation was a concern that people had. And we're going to keep Jackson students on Jackson buses. We aren't going to intermingle. In the past, we've done some of those pieces. Cohorting is still important, even in your school. And I'll defer to Gail. Maybe you can speak a little bit to that.
Well, and in terms of my recommendation, Kevin is hooked up with all of the local and statewide health people. And so my suggestion would be that we continue to follow the SAU 9 recommendations, however, with interpretation for our building. And so what I did was, given that it's yellow right now, I went through the yellow plan and organized it in the same order that they did, with drop-off, transportation, health screenings, masks, etc., and detailed what I would want to do here given a yellow condition. It would get stricter for red and, less strict for green. But I don't know if I have to go over every single thing. It continues to maximize our outdoor space. It's definitely masking inside, trying to stay within cohorts as much as we can. 2 different lunch servings, making use of the larger Whitney Center space when we need to. The screenings, the buses, pretty much the same. Everyone's masked, windows are open.
Yeah, we have UA in person this year with
I
those
think
teachers.
we're able to do that this year because of vaccination rates and with the protection that we have now will allow us to do that safely. Yeah.
Gail, could I ask that, this is perfect. It's specific, it's detailed for our school, so
Right.
there's no need to interpret anything on your own. So this is pretty much what it is. But can you do one of these for red and green as well, so that should we move into those colors, we can just send this out or have it posted on the school website that this is, we're in green now, these are the changes specific to our school.
I can, if that's something you think you'd like.
I think it would be helpful. I don't know, simple.
I think a really important piece is, we're trying to take a look at the trends too.
Right.
So for example, here's a really good example. Field trips, right? So right now we're saying, sure, you can do field trips with these pieces, right? So I would say you might not want to go to the Boston Museum of Science at this point, right? But Tin Mountain, absolutely. Down at Shula Park if there's something that you're doing outside. So depending upon what's happening in the community in your school, that would drive some of those decisions. I look at that as all being within yellow, right? So, yeah, and like you said, the unified arts pieces, even bringing guest speakers in. So depending upon, again, I'll go back to those mitigating factors. If you're out here under the tent, you can bring people in, but if we start seeing a case or something along those lines, even with parents, right, getting back to, you guys do wonderful assemblies, and you bring the community in. So I think within the range would be fair, but to say exactly, there are different gradations of allowability for certain things.
And that's kind of where I would be at with things, is that, last year, you all did a really, really good job of keeping the kids safe and in school for the whole year. This plan, what I like the most about it is it's flexible. It doesn't have those hard lines between green, yellow, and red. And I like this interpretation. I'm a little bit hesitant about putting down the interpretation every time. Certainly last year, Kevin, you showed tremendous sensitivity to the parents of Jackson, how we wanted to handle things. Gail, you did a tremendous job of that, and that worked really well. And I think that you've gained the trust of Jackson parents. And the board, we've tried to be as supportive of that as we can. And I don't want to tie your hands down to this is exactly what we do in this condition, for the reasons that Kevin's saying. Like if we want to go to, if field trips are most are off, but some we can do. I don't want to bind them to a piece of paper saying that no, we can't do that because this is what the board, specifically what the board approved. And I guess what I'm driving is that I'm comfortable with the plan as it is, with Gail interpreting it for Jackson the way that she wants to, and that's going to be transparent to parents, who's the most important part, and to the board as well. I'm okay with just approving the plan as it is, with Gail, using her own interpretation of it. But I'm very open to the idea of maybe being more specific with certain things, like maybe math is just a given. Like we have math in school until the board says otherwise, maybe. I don't know, how do we feel about that? I mean,
I think last year, like at the end of the year, when we asked, like, if anything were, like, one of the schools locally, like, that did away with all of their masks, and there were parent community members that were really concerned that, like, before the end of the school year, suddenly this protocol that we had all shared in for the entire year would just, like, suddenly, like, just go away. And so we had the conversation about Jackson, maybe we agree when it's, like, with whatever the recommendation is, but for the board to get to help and make that decision for the specific community that we have. Is that what you mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
And like I'm wondering, like, so like, because when you're in the green, like masks don't necessarily have to be worn inside, correct?
Yeah, so that's correct. Yeah,
But
and it depends on the vaccination rate, right? So it may be the high school, or if we drop down to, I'm going to tell you, my thought is we're going to live in yellow most of the year, at least for the near future. I think where it will become red is if we start to get cases in the community and in the school, and that would be my concern. If we get a better handle on this and we get more vaccinations, and we'll get guidelines too. We follow those guidelines.
And I guess what I'm asking, like Gail, is if we approve the plan as it is, with the exception of requiring masks to be worn inside, with the exception of when they're eating, or whatever the reasons are when they wouldn't be worn inside, is that something that would be helpful to you think, or would that be?
I think retaining that flexibility is really what's helpful. Sometimes I find people interpret things in a way that makes it hard when they come waving their paper at me and say, but you said, when the conditions were slightly different, it makes it harder to explain and justify a decision that I made. I do listen to my staff. I listen to my parents. So if it was a major decision like masking, that would obviously come to you. Whether it's going on a field trip like we did last year, changing our field trip venue and things like that, I made the decision and then informed you. But I think that's helpful.
So we could approve the plan as it is, and you'd be comfortable and happy with that?
Yes.
Okay. So I just one more follow up to what I was saying. So this is the yellow plan. So we're approving this. So my concern is we only meet once a month, and I know we could have special meetings in between. But if we were to move to red and or to green, I don't want to have to wait until we have a meeting to make those changes, nor to communicate out to parents. So what I was asking is if you could do a rough thing.
We would primarily
Green.
use the red level, which is
Right.
much like last year.
Right, but
Maps
having it
drawn by-
a little bit more simplified
Okay,
like
yeah,
this.
no, it's easy enough to do.
For people to say, okay, this is the changes that we're gonna go with red, or if we go to green, this is what we're gonna do, and allowing Kevin to have that authority per se with Gail to say, we're gonna make that change like today. Because things have changed in the community. We have a case, or we don't have any cases, so we're gonna go to green. So we gave that permission to Kevin last year as well, like, to close down or not close down. So do we wanna discuss that as well?
I want to hear what Kevin would like to say.
Yeah, so having lived through this for the last 16 months, so for example, if the guidelines came out and said, you can ensure 6 feet worth of space in a classroom, is it okay to take their masks off? Let's say that I would absolutely at least check with you folks and Gail to see if that was something you even wanted to entertain. The numbers start going down, and there's guidance that says, okay, we're at a point now where indoors it could be a recommendation. I'm always going to be conservative on all these things, right? That's I'm not, unless I'm directed to do otherwise. The red would be, like I said, if you had a cluster. I mean, that's right. In your school, you're probably talking 2 related, or 3 related, 2 probably. and that would be something that we'd take a look at. And then quarantining, I think your teachers are pretty good about being able to look at the conditions in the classrooms and say, yeah, and it may be more difficult. You may be more conservative about quarantining groups of little kids in kindergarten and first grade because the proximity is much greater than maybe your upper wing kids. The other thing is, I've offered this as well. I get my updates usually on Tuesday. We have lots of discussion. And I know we did this with co-curricular at the high school last year. We had a standing 3:30 meeting at Kennet High School with the athletic director, athletic coordinator, Kennet Middle School, myself, and 2 Conley School Board members. And just to brief and say, okay, here's where we are. These are some of the changes. No guests indoors. Okay, now we're allowing 2 guests in kind of working depending upon where we're going. So if the board chooses, we could schedule something with either 1 or 2 or something along those lines along with Gail.
I think for me, it seems like going into the quote-unquote red zone is something that happens fast. Going into the green zone is something that takes time and thought. And so if that's the understanding, I think that we can have, if it looks like Kevin's recommending we're going into green and Gail's like feeling, yeah, that's really going to happen, then I think we can trigger a board conversation. I think that given the fact that our kids are 12 and under, I think doing what we can to focus on protecting them, and what Jerry was saying is like, we can approve this and say, but we want masks, or we can say we can approve this, and when it looks like green is a possibility, we want to have a special meeting for the board so that we can be part of that conversation and support you and make sure that. I don't think it would be a fast decision. I don't see how it could be, but I think that there's enough time to get us into that conversation.
And I think that makes a lot of sense from the standpoint too that this plan doesn't have hard lines between the color zones. It's like there is that gray area, you will, between the zones where that conversation gives the time for the conversation. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. So maybe that can be the way we think about it. It's like go for it. Red happens, but when we're going to green, that triggers a larger board. And I'm not. If anyone wants to do the weekly conversation with Kevin, I'm not precluding that.
I'm sure we'll be doing that anyway.
Yeah, usually I'm on the horn with Jen, and then she's on the horn with you guys. And
No, I think that makes sense. I like that. Yep.
I like it. And then I don't know, I feel like that is, we get to then support the community members of parents and their kids and the staff members and Gail by having a conversation.
Yep.
I don't know if Darlene had any.
Darlene, did you fall over? Okay.
My thoughts sitting here is that, Kevin and Gail, you've been through this. Jackson has experience that, you guys have done a great job. I think we've got a lot of confidence in that, and you're going to continue to do that great job going forward. And I think with the masks and, touching base, I personally have a lot of trust in the administration. I just quickly pulled the document up on my phone, and, great work. I see where we are in the yellow. But again, Kevin, I think you pointed out, we're not the only ones, facing a lot of these issues across the country. So, I'm here in Wisconsin, and I'm seeing a granddaughter going to kindergarten, and, that's a conversation here too. Masks, no masks, the kids are all going back, and that's the key. Get the kids in school. That's where kids belong. So, I think we have our trust in you. I think, you've got a track record that you've done well with the Jackson population, and, I expect that not to be any different.
Okay.
Thank you,
I think
Darlene.
we're ready to vote then. Great thing.
Can I ask
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry to be late. I probably missed a public question. But is there a sense that there'll be cohorts kind of again this year? And I know we're low on staff and it's small groups. And part of what makes Jackson great is being able to have like multi-ages together. So, but are you guys able to create cohorts? Has that sort of been figured out yet?
I think we're looking at classroom.
Yep.
Cohorts being a cohort by themselves. We were thinking like Rick was talking about the middle school having 50 students in a cohort. So depending on your situation, our largest cohort would be 19, but those kids will all share a room in common, teachers.
How does that work, Gail, for the conversation about the 2, 3, 4 doing multi-grade grouping and co-teaching?
It
Would
may-
the 2, 3, 4 be a 29 student cohort because to access the support that we talked about
Right.
at the last meeting?
I haven't really come down hard on that. It does make it more challenging, in that you're mixing kiddos, and sometimes, 29 isn't a huge number according to
I mean,
some
it's
other
more than
schools, but for
50%.
us, that's a large number,
Yeah,
so
it's
it
like the
may
whole
make that not be possible at this point.
Is there still did rooms in the building change? Is there still a plan for co-teaching of that
The
class?
rooms did change. The 2, 3, and 4 are in the big rooms. They're in the larger of the 2 rooms with the divider in between to enable that to be able to happen.
And the co-teaching is still the plan?
I haven't changed the teaching plan yet.
Okay.
No.
Any other questions?
Is
Did our
it,
enrollment change?
Our enrollment is decreasing. It has what did we lose? 3 this week? Yeah.
And have some of the homeschoolers re-enrolled?
Yeah, I think they're on their way to doing it.
Where are we at for numbers right now? Like how many?
Susan, you were looking at that today. Was it
I was looking at
47?
that today. There's so many ups and so many downs. Probably in the 40s right now.
We're just now asking people. Not everyone has even registered, so we're
Yeah.
trying to
We're-
track down some
You know,
people.
Who would not
there's
register
those
their
people
children
who
for school?
just haven't quite done that yet.
I don't know anybody who.
Yeah, I mean, there's some folks who,
They may not know.
I mean, people are just moving away for work and stuff.
Yeah. I was just curious
Kinda
if that,
normal
like, the configuration was based on the now, like, switching it up because the 2, 3 couldn't be together anymore. And was there any, is there any changes with that
I
shift
haven't
in any way?
made any changes at this time.
Have we made a motion for it now?
No.
Do we need to make a motion to meet before the green?
Yeah.
So I'll make a
Make a
motion to
separate plan.
approve the re-entry plan as presented, with the exception of having a board meeting before transitioning from yellow down to green.
Second that.
All right. All those in favor? All right, great. Thank you guys for all the work on this.
Yeah.
More than
Darlene vote?
appreciated.
She did.
She did.
Yes, she
I was
raised
just
her
curious.
hand.
Nobody said one abstained. I figured.
No. All right. Anything else, Kevin?
no.
Gail?
Nope, that was,
That was it?
Yeah.
All right, so we're moving on to board member committee reports. We have a personnel committee report.
I put the minutes out there. I don't know if Kate or Micah want to speak for the.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think we're making it.
Well, yeah, so we.
sorry, we're having
We're having a mini
sorry.
meeting.
Do we, what? Yeah.
We could
So
just
we had a
leave
great
this.
meeting the other day with Kevin and Gail.
Susanna.
Talked about some of the challenges in staffing.
Sorry.
Talked about, we talked about looking at the overall payment structure of our entire staff community and making sure that we do some really, appropriate market kind of adjustments when it's time for for next year's budget to make sure that we're really ahead of it this year, to make some improvements to make Jackson even more desirable to work at. And then we had a conversation about in these staffing positions that we currently have available. So of trying really hard to make it like very obvious that we really want good people here, and how do we do that, and what are our options. And we don't have a lot of options for like you get a car, you get a car. We do have the ability to offer signing bonuses. So we talked about that with Kevin, and it was our hope tonight to bring that up with all of you. I can't remember the exact number, so I'm not going to speak to
I
that.
think
Five.
So it's
in
in
here, so
minutes,
it's
so it's
5,000.
1,000 and 5,000.
Yeah. So that's what we'd like to recommend for that, and then also to just flag on to advocate for housing, because as we all know, that's one of the biggest issues. And we had some brainstorming about housing opportunities that we know that exist, and to be able to offer that to staff that Gail's trying to hire, to say that's something that we take really seriously, and we don't have a space, but we can get an action plan together to try to
We had a conversation about the Gibson Center had been working on a project pre-COVID that I went to a great presentation on with Marianne Jackson, and about reaching out to our community here in Jackson, like via the e-news, and basically asking for the support of folks to kind of get creative, because I know we have a lot of people in this town that really support the school, and really want to support educators and people being able to be in Jackson. And I think that we could really try hard to support some really fine people to be here and have stable housing, and a benefit of a bonus to sign on to such a great school.
Gail, do you want that housing movement to happen now, or do you want to wait until you have a candidate?
I think we should do it now,
Okay.
because then when we have a candidate, we can say, here's the 3 kinds of things. This is a elderly person who needs support at home in their like large older house, and these would be the expectations, and this would be the rent structure and all of those things, versus this is an this is an in-law apartment, and this is a cabin in the woods. I mean, wouldn't it be great to have those
window
3
is
options?
getting short too, so they would want to move.
Yeah.
They're going to start at the beginning of the year.
Okay. So what Kate and I thought was sending a note out to the e-news, and also potentially to the school community, right? To have an ask for those 2 things. So to be able to say, hey, this is what we need. We need our help getting teachers here if you have a situation, and to be able to, so that we can actually tee that up and have it at the ready. So we're making two recommendations.
I like them both. It's great work. Go ahead, Carrie.
I was just going to ask about the non-contracted staff.
Yeah, that was my question.
Where are we at with non-contracted staff? Do we need to fill positions?
I have a strong lead for the para position right now. I haven't formally hired or sent a candidate to Kevin, but that looks better than when I spoke to you last. The other position, one is a tutor position. The world language tutor is still open, and I have the library media specialist that's still open, and then the special educator.
And the reason I'm asking this was that the $1,000, I'm wondering, is that, where did that number come from? Because it seems a little bit low to me, or is that, for the kinds of positions we're talking about, does that actually make sense? I mean,
one of the pieces was to be respectful of the staff here too, in taking a look at the budget, because we looked at some of those things. I think the paraprofessional position or support position, the benefits are really the big deal. This is just kind of, I mean, you could amend it. People would like it if it were 1,500 or 2,000, but looking at one of the things you want to be careful of is creating inequity for the people who are currently in their roles too, and want to be respectful of that. Same thing with the teaching position. So your starting salary is fair, but if you had somebody with, let's say, 15 years worth of experience that wanted to be the special ed teacher here, they could go to maybe other districts and be a little bit more. With that $5,000, it would jump up that person's, and it would be prorated. So, they get the $2,500 on day 1, and if they complete the year, they get the other $2,500.
and that's why I was a little bit concerned about the $1,000. Because aren't we a little bit low for comparable districts for a non-contracted?
Well, you weren't until we had this pandemic, and everybody's short. We were saying you can raise everybody up, but Yeah, as far as a pair wages starting salary, you're right in the ballpark, or you were when that was established last year.
Cool. So I like those numbers as they are, particularly with the looking into the increasing the wages for non-contract
Yeah.
staff in the 22,
I think
23 season. So
we did agree to
Considering
take
all that, I
an
think-
aggressive approach across the board,
Yeah.
raise everything up, and in the people who are currently in those positions.
Sorry, did you have more questions or should I make a motion? Then you can ask your questions.
I can't remember my question.
You were going to ask about non-contracted too, so
Yeah,
I guess
let's
I'll go ahead
yeah,
and make a
let's
motion
make a
to
motion.
approve a $1,000 signing bonus for non-contracted staff and a $5,000 signing bonus for contracted teaching positions.
Second. We're all raising our hand.
It's unanimous.
In terms of the housing action on that,
Yeah.
Kate, are you approved?
I will not be available to write a letter this week.
Okay.
I need to register my children for school. I can work on it though, like we can bang something out to the community though.
Just remember, Darlene might not be able to hear you.
Oh,
if
her,
you-
sorry.
Kate
No,
said
I
she
will-
didn't
yeah,
register
I
her
will.
kids for school, darling. So, you know.
She's not counted in the group.
I will.
Shame on you.
I know.
She's been working 16-hour
16 hours
days
a day, yeah.
for 2 weeks.
I'll bang something out and just send it to you that.
Yeah, we'll just, Kate
I got
and
it.
I will tag team it.
Yeah.
You'll start.
Because that's the
Take up the back.
That's crazy. I don't know who wants part of that. They're looking for housing for people right now. It's like the
I
last
mean,
place
I'm
in
not
the
giving
world.
them my email address. That would be just
So if they
a
have
black
questions,
hole.
then they talk to Gail. But they send we have to figure out some of the logistics, like who do they talk to if they have any. Only serious options are allowed to contact us.
Yeah. All right. This was great. Thank you guys for doing that.
Yeah.
I know it's a lot of work, so I appreciate it. All right, I put in on my notes here the strategic plans. I don't know, Micah, if you wanted to
Yeah,
discuss
or Jerry,
that
do you want to?
today, or-
Jerry was nominated by the committee to give an update. Remember you?
Yeah.
You volunteered.
That's right. I did, didn't I?
You did.
Is that an early morning meeting? Was I?
No.
No, this afternoon wasn't it? That's a problem. I usually don't eat until like 2, so that's, so we had a couple meetings since our last meeting. I was only at the last one, however, Tim has put together a pretty good framework for the strategic planning committee as a good basis for us to go off of, and we're hoping to have our first session with the community on September 25th.
Right about there. Yeah.
Yeah, is it 25th, Gail?
It's like a Friday.
I think it's the 21st. It is the
21st?
21st.
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Tuesday the 21st at 6 p.m.
Yeah, 6 to 8,
Um,
if that's what we apparently decided.
And so that's going to be our first, so we're putting out an invitation to have our first session on that day. And the invitation's, it's pretty well constructed, a good description of what we're doing and what we hope to achieve there. So we just kind of wanted the board to give formal approval of that so that we can get it in the minutes and start putting out some postings for it.
We're going to have 2 meetings, so there was hope that we would be able to have, we have 2 sessions we want to run. So we want to run one session around the big picture vision, the goals, you know, kind of the feel of what people are trying to create at the grammar school in the future. And then we wanted to have a separate session integrating that into the strategic plan, getting feedback, also talking about the portrait of Jackson Marner. And our really optimistic plan was that we would have 2 sessions for each of these things. So we could cast as wide of a net and get as many community members and have 2 different times. Then when we started asking for people to help facilitate this, it became immediately apparent that this was too optimistic, especially given what's happening in the world right now. So we have streamed it down, and we're going to have a vision and goal setting time, and then we're going to have a separate. So we'll have one on a Tuesday night, and probably we still have to confirm that with our committee, but probably one on a Saturday, just so that we can have 2 different lumps of time, unless someone has a strong,
On like a Saturday morning.
yeah, like
One
a
thing
9
I
to
think that we
11.
could probably plan on for contingency's sake anyway,
Yeah.
like let's say we have the meeting on that 21st and
Yeah,
2 people show up.
yeah,
Yeah, then we can always maybe plan a separate session to do the vision and goals
Yeah.
again. But if we get a good showing in that first Tuesday
Yeah.
night meeting, then we call that good and then move on
Yeah.
to the next portion of it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, we were trying to do one evening at 6 to 8 and then one Saturday at 9 to 11 and, you know, really trying to invite people in to help create this with us. And it's pretty amazing that we haven't had that Jackson hasn't had a strategic plan, and it's been really fun having Tim work on it and give some of the background of what that can look like. I think
I
we're
would
really
recommend
wanting.
on a Tuesday night, since there's no restaurants really
I
open.
was
Yeah.
just gonna
You
say,
bring
I would
food.
go on a Tuesday night.
Well, that. What did you? How's the snack plan coming? Gail?
They are on board.
All right, we're gonna have
100%.
snacks.
We're gonna have snacks provided by the Whitney Center
All right.
I
group.
was gonna say I'm great at
That would
it.
be me.
Okay, see, we're gonna
On
have snacks.
Tuesday night.
All right.
So-
Getting in.
So, great. So we just want to keep everybody informed, and then I need to finish up the invite.
So we don't need to take a vote on it or anything, but we just
No,
wanted to get the
that's
board to
cool.
make a formal
That's
kind
great.
of commitment to
No,
the
it's great.
21st and go from there.
Yeah.
The only thing we have to keep in the back of our mind is COVID and
Where we are.
be sensitive to it.
And the idea is
adaptable
we're
to
going to use whatever practices the school is following. So, you know, the nice thing about doing it in September is we can do it outside. And I think we might even want to look at moving our October one up a little bit, smidge, just so that we can have, I mean, we're pretty hardy and we can do it
October
outside.
can be 15 degrees or 78.
I
so-
understand that, as can
You
November,
get snow on
but
October
inevitably.
8th the other year.
Yeah.
No, I read the strategic plan. I think it's great. I think it's really encompasses everything. It
Framework
takes-
for the-
The
It
framework.
looks great, yeah.
Yeah.
I read Tim's spiel. So that's good. Okay,
Awesome.
great. Anything else? Any other? No? Okay.
We have a DEI committee meeting in like a week and a half. for
The
the first-
26th.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks, by the way, for the work that you did on the personnel committee. It's
Yeah.
exactly the kind of information I was kind of hoping that you guys would get to, so nice work.
Can I ask what the DEI committee is?
The diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Oh, cool.
The next meeting is set for September 20th. Any citizen comments at this time?
I kind of, so, like, are we totally hosed if we don't hire a special education teacher? I mean, just like practically, right?
How
Like,
close?
how hosed are we?
Going to red.
Everything's gonna be fine. But I'm like, that seems like a big deal. Like,
Are you busy? And
I don't have that qualification. So luckily, I'm good.
How close
do
to
have-
are you? With-
Not close. Not close. I'm sorry.
I do have some Plan Bs. They're not as good as having a qualified special educator full-time in the building for sure. But there are two of us in the building who hold that certification.
Oh, right on.
And yeah, and so with some support from the SAU if we need it, from Pam Stimson and other personnel around the valley, we'll put together plans so that we can follow the IEPs as best we can.
And on the flip side, like, is it possible or any more possible to hire another classroom educator?
That's
If you-
that's on the docket
Oh,
as
is it?
well as an alternative plan.
It's
Oh.
also challenging because it's like you can't follow them as the best you can because they're legal documents and you have to
Right.
follow them.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
But like,
But you mean I could transfer one of my special ed certified teachers and hire a classroom teacher?
I'm not throwing anyone under
No,
the
I
bus.
know, I know.
Or
but
hosing anyone.
I know.
So I was just trying to like,
I'm just saying,
right, like,
I've looked at a number of
Yeah.
different options, they're all still on the table. My first goal is to hire a
special.
qualified candidate to fill that role.
Yeah.
we had a good one. We just
Do you know
Yeah,
who's
just-
got,
One
got
person.
I'm really excited for Jenny.
Okay.
Jenny's
you can't say.
position.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. I was just trying to gauge. I know that's a tough position to fill.
Would it be possible, since it seems that a lot of schools right now are hiring or not being able to hire a special educator, would it be possible to be posting a classroom teacher position and casting a net in some direction so that if we got a great
With a signing
qualified with a signing bonus?
I'm just saying, I
Potential
have to
housing.
call a few people
Right.
with the signing bonus in mind as well.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
might change their way of looking at it.
I think that one important thing from that, Gail, is that we're as flexible as you need us
Yeah.
to be in order to get that
Thank you.
filled as best as you can.
Yeah.
Any
I do have a
others?
comment. In Connecticut, where I used to teach, they have 48 openings. Not all all teachers, but 48 openings. I mean, I can't even tell you.
At a single school?
I taught in that system for 26 years.
School system.
That is unheard of and all over. You know, I'm hearing it from colleagues. So finding people that are qualified for positions, even offering them alternate routes to certification. You know, it's just tough everywhere. So we're not unique. I also want to make a comment, Bridget. Great. She's been very great in your financial office there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So she was very supportive. So
It's very
good news
busy.
with that.
Any other citizen comments? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just I wanted to say, and I think I've told some of the staff members informally, but I wanted to say formally that we were. I have 3 children in the school, and we were really pleased with the level of care all of last year, just in the protocols in place, and really just the effort of the staff to just normalize things was very impressive. So I just wanted to formally say that we're very, very pleased. Dropped off 3 kids and did not have a concern as to their mental or physical safety while at school. So
Thank you.
just thank you very much. And in addition, I was thinking that flexibility was also so great because it also allowed that field trip at the end of the year to take place, which could only take place because it was at the end of the year and there's so many other things going on. So having that flexibility was also really appreciated. So
Well, thank you. Appreciate your support. All right, no non-public this evening? All right,
Motion to adjourn?
second. All those in favor of adjourning? It's unanimous. Thank you guys very much.
See you, darling.
Thank you, Darlene.
Bye,
Good
Darlene.
to see you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for making this happen.
Yep. Enjoy your family.
Yeah. Bye.